Hello, punchers and kickers, everyone in between, and those who don't identify. This is Nightly Late Nights, the human interest, public conversation, and general discussion show on Bizz 99.9 FM Substitute Radio. I'm your host, Adam Phillips, and I welcome you to my lovely little wireless program. Today, we're going to be chewing the fat on the group of people known as the Goths. Who are they? What do they do? Where do they live? How scared of them should we be? And we're also going to be talking more broadly about the ideals, practices, and values of Gothic subculture. What do they believe in? And what are their goals? What type of activities and symbolism and routines does this involve? Is it all just satanic chanting and drinking blood? Or is there more to it than that? Let's find out. To talk about all things goth related, from their terminology and symbolism to their music and clothes, I'm joined by Frank. Welcome to the program and thank you for coming in today to talk with me.
Hello everyone.
So, I thought I'd like to begin with just some introductory questions so that the audience gets a general sense of what Gothic subculture is. So, can you just tell me, what is Gothic subculture? What is it centered around? And what is its purpose or meaning?
Well, that's a pretty broad question, but I'll try and simplify it as much as I can. The goth subculture is a music subculture, and most people would say that the music is the most important part of it, but there are also a lot of things that would probably fall under the category of goth. And generally speaking, when people talk about goth, they're talking about the music and the original scene that began in the 80s. But when they say gothic, they're talking about the things that the goth scene was influenced by. So the goth music scene stemmed from punk. So goth is considered to be post-punk. It has elements of the punk scene as well as elements of glam rock and new wave, which are also post-punk music. So basically it's just like punk music but with a darker twist to it, and it's more gloomy. The fashion was inspired obviously by the artists of those original bands. Basically from there it just stemmed out and people brought in their own interests into it, and it just became this massive subculture.
I'd like to get to know a bit more about you before we continue on. So can you tell me, when and how did you first become interested in goth-related things and the goth scene in a general sense?
Well, like a lot of people my age, I was interested in emo when I was a teenager. So emo is kind of influenced by goth, but it's a lot different to it. But that was the thing that got me interested anyway. And then it took quite a while before I actually started to look into the original goth scene and the original goth bands, and I realized how much I really enjoyed the music. So I would say I've been actually involved in the goth scene for about 2 years now.
What is it that makes you feel like you belong to the goth subculture? Is it about something that you have to behave in a certain way, or is it a matter of presentation? Well, what qualifies you as being a goth?
People have different ideas about what makes you goth and what makes you not goth. Like I said about things being goth and things being gothic, a lot of people might say that you have to be interested in the goth scene from the 80s and the original 80s goth bands to be considered goth. Whereas some people think that if you're interested in anything that's gothic, like gothic literature and gothic architecture or gothic fashion, then that makes you goth. So yeah, it could be a combination of both of those things, or it could just be one of those things. It really depends who you ask.
Have you noticed any difference before and after you entered into the gothic scene and started identifying as a goth? Has it really changed you as a person or improved the quality of your life?
Well, I would say that it gave me a place to be myself And in a way, I think it made me realize that it's like okay to be interested in things that are a bit strange and dark, and that it's okay to express yourself, and it doesn't mean that you're a freak or anything.
Can you expand it a bit more on some of the positive and good elements of goth culture that make you happy and proud of it?
Well, the goth subculture tends to be very progressive, and since they stemmed out of the punk movement, they tend to have very left political views. So you don't really get many like racist people or homophobic or transphobic people in the goth community. And then also you have like the whole freedom of expression thing. You know, a lot of people will create their own kind of fashion and their own makeup and stuff, and you know, people don't really judge too much about what you wear. And then also a lot of the fashion and makeup tends to be androgynous, so it's a good place for people who are like gender fluid or transgender.
There are obviously a lot of negative stereotypes about goths that exist within mainstream society and popular culture. I was wondering, are these a source of frustration or amusement to you? Do you try to combat them, or do you just say, whatever, haters be haters?
Well, for me, it's just kind of funny to see, but it's also kind of irritating because, you know, if you want to meet people who are like you and are interested in the same things as you might ask someone if they're goth and they'll say yes, but it turns out that they're not affiliated with like the 80s goth scene or the 80s music. They just like metal or something like that, or they like horror movies or something.
Can you just clarify one of the most controversial things? What is the relationship between goth and religion? Because you wear the cross, so that would suggest that you're an advocate of Jesus Christ, but you wear it in order to subvert it, which would suggest that you're a Satanist. Can you just clarify this whole issue so that we stop worrying about it?
Well, in my entire time in the goth scene, I've actually never seen anyone wearing a cross. So I think that might actually be another stereotype, because I've never seen anyone wear a cross. But having said that, there does tend to be a lot of like symbolism in the goth subculture, and I think mostly it's because, you know, the people wearing the symbol, they might have like a connection to that because they might be interested in like ancient history or something, so they might wear runes or something, or they might be interested in alchemy, so they might wear like an alchemy symbol. But generally it's just because that person is interested in that. It's not that there's any particular religion that's associated with the goth scene.
Thank you very much for answering all those questions. And now it's time for the fast money round, where I put in goth-related questions into Google and then write out the autocorrect options. And so I'm going to ask them in quick succession. You can either answer them properly, expand on them, or dismiss them as a negative stereotype that doesn't actually relate to actual goth. So, why do goths wear black?
Because black is a beautiful colour.
Why do goths wear gas masks?
Goths don't really wear gas masks. That would be cyber goths.
Why do goths hate emos?
I think they hate emos because emos are like the really mopey, sad little brother of goth, and also because people confuse emos as being goth.
Why does goth still exist?
Because it's a great scene and the people in the scene love it so much and they don't want to let it die.
Do goths like anime?
I'm sure there are some goths who like anime.
Why do goths cut themselves?
Okay, goths don't really cut themselves. I mean, I would be very concerned if someone was cutting themselves.
Why are goths so weird?
Goths like to just be themselves and not be afraid of all the things that might make them seem weird to the general population.
Why are goths so hated?
I don't know. Probably because they're different.
Can goths wear colours?
Yeah, of course they can.
Can goths have blonde or brown hair?
Yes, a lot of goths have blonde or brown or red hair.
Is goth dead?
No, it's undead.
Where do goths hang out?
They either hang out at clubs or just in their own groups or in graveyards.
Where do goths shop?
They could shop anywhere, really.
Where do goths live?
They just live in normal houses like everyone else.
That's unfortunately all the time we have. It's time to wrap it up and go home. Thank you very much, Frank, for coming in today and having a chat with me.
No problem.
I'm Adam Phillips, and this has been Nightly Late Nights, the human interest, public conversation, and general discussion show. Join me again next time on Bizz 99.9 FM Substitute Radio, where we will explore another area of culture, life, and the human experience. Have a great weekend, and remember to never be afraid of what the human mind is capable of when given the opportunity.